because I've been so deeply involved in this kind of litigation, I actually know the names of people that I need to move as soon as I get into office. Most politicians are very, very intimidated by these agencies because the agencies do have the capacity at many levels to commit civil disobediences to embarrass the president if they feel that they're coming on.
So what he's just said there, guess we're at 28 seconds in now. So RFK Jr., who is actually running for president, and he is a lawyer, and he wins legal cases. He's won legal cases. He's a professional academic. He's giving evidence here that corporations and other groups and entities themselves engage in civil disobedience, their own way in civil disobedience. And this is what I think is happening with with some of, possibly many of these incidents, like, the train signal failing, 250 people dying, India, another train crash in America. Somebody's rammed a car into a wall near us the other day. It seems to be perfectly timed. That tree that got cut down at Hadrian's Wall. But, some people say, well, no, these people just did these things themselves, Extinction Rebellion and Just Stop Oil. But even Extinction Rebellion and Just Stop Oil, they got funding, and, there's, with this civil disobedience, it's true that individuals can make up their own minds, like how about those American schools that got shot up, someone suddenly decided to go into a school and shoot everyone. But that incident with Boris Johnson's dad's next door neighbour, when he turned a shotgun on his wife and then on himself, through my campaigning and through what's been happening to me with certain things with the vehicle, when I was driving, it mysteriously stopped, or brakes locked up, or like steering rack broke, and cars in front suddenly stopping, or their car suddenly stopping for some unknown reason. And the fact that the government wanting to get, all car, they wanted to, encouraging people to scrap, paying them to get rid of their mechanical cars for electric ones, that all got computer chips and remote access control, including, all systems. That there is a ability to do incidents. The thing is that Robert F. Kennedy, in this interview, he says that, this plan that, the Black Rock Vanguard elite have got, like in China with the social point system, to have complete and total control of everyone in the movement, The world we've got now, or that they're starting to bring in, when you can't even get out of a car unless someone authorises it, a future where all the world around you, every machine, every building, every device, everything you do, you can only perform that action if, like, you've got the fingerprint or an eyeball scan. Why? It's such a handicap. It really is googly, googly, with no disrespect to anyone who wears glasses. That's going the opposite way to the way we kind of want to be going, so you don't need them anymore. This whole kind of like walking frame, mobility scooter for obese people, disabled world where you can't open a car door if you're not the right person, or you can't walk into a building if you're not the right person, or, this world, it's like a disability. They want to disable the person. If he's not the right person, he's disabled. It's almost like the blue badge, disabled blue badge holder, And the thing with that world is that how incapacitated is the monkey, is the ape, if he can't swing freely from the trees, if he can't walk on the forest floor, if he can't roam the jungle. How disabled is the human in the world around him? In these 15-minute cities. What I was thinking today is that, it's so infuriating and embarrassing, and just the mind of a human who's lived, so many years on this planet and had the freedom to, I've been lucky enough to be a driver. Not everyone drives, but to just get in and out when you want and go where you want. And there's a certain freedom when you can't even get out of a vehicle until someone, oh, please can I, open the door to let me out? It just seems ridiculous. I mean, if these people would simply not have been greedy for all these excess trillions and profits hoarded, if the people had been given money and been given fair and equal money, why would they need to steal a car? Why would they even need to steal a car? I mean, at the end of the day, the whole premise of, why people driving past you on the road all the time, with empty seats. Like in Ireland, they're meant to hitchhike people and give people lifts, they trust each other there. But they're over here, they get you to not trust people. On the internet now, the worst thing, like this Don't Stop City campaign, people aren't trusting each other in the groups. They don't want to speak freely, but it's going to be the most protected thing you can do is do a political campaign, but no one dare speak. And then, when you get into the groups and when you're speaking freely, everyone's talking about, we've got to be held together, solidarity, be free, support each other. But you go in there, you go, hey guys, how's it going? I've got something to tell you, enthusiastic. And then you get kicked out. It's so antisocial. This whole government at the moment, this whole Sunak, Braverman, May, Johnson, even Clegg, Blair government is so antisocial. And what Blair did, to make the government transparent, so then all companies could scan it, find out all the information, buy it all off, then not be transparent with us, so we can't have any freedom of information about these companies. But they want to take all our information and have our information. YouTube doesn't even want us on their website. YouTube won't even allow, certain videos when there's legal right on YouTube, right? But it wants to force access to your phone, and it wants to see your videos. It wants to scan them and even use your videos to reflect your advert material back. Use the things you've said and done in videos to reflect ad content back, images, pictures, before you can even edit them. It wants to use all that data, use your images itself, but it doesn't want your images on its website. I mean, how hypocritical is that from YouTube and Google? I mean, it's more than hypocritical. It's worse than double standards, It's not just double standards. It's just like unfairness.
And, I understand that dynamic.
I mean, it's worse than double standards. It's worse than unfairness. Why not have a world where there are just cars, sort of like on, Total Recall, regardless of whether you jump in and you hold on the joystick, and drive it around, or whether or not, why aren't there just cars everywhere? You just get in and drive it. And then if they say, oh, why is it computer controlled? Why does it need to be computer controlled? Why don't you like steering and driving cars? Like, when they got these bikes lying around everywhere that you can just pick up and use. Or in California, they've got more and more people riding those electric scooters. Well, it's flatter. But they're bringing in bike lanes here, but it's not flat. There's always been, bikes in Oxford and Cambridge. But in this area, it's hilly, it's cold. It's just not the right place for bike lanes. And plus, it shifts all the traffic around. As they're putting these bike lanes in now, you've got to endure a 6, 12, 2 years of noise all night, because it's actually, it's forcing traffic into other areas. So then you start getting traffic at 4 o'clock in the morning all through the night. Just ridiculous. But what I started this conversation with RFK, talking about the companies doing civil disobedience. Well, that's really what TuneCore, YouTube and CD Baby and, these websites are really engaging in civil disobedience now. by refusing to put his political videos on there. The thing with Robert F. Kennedy is he's kind of saying that I don't agree with him on the fact that he claims it's not already illegal to deny political material, when I think it is, because if you see, in English law, it is illegal. It's illegal to not only take legal action against someone and prosecute them, it's illegal to have a commitment, which is a rule or a restriction or something, when it's to do with petitioning, which means they can't. That law, if you know what it means that no other company or person can deny you of a. They can't hold you to a commitment to prevent you from petitioning. And it includes all entities of Her Majesty's government, which includes Companies House, which includes every business and company, because it's an entity formed under the power of the government, which means that if you need paper for petitioning, they can't say that they're not selling you the paper when they're selling it to other people. They can't say we're not selling you pens. That's what it means. Now, when America formed their government and had an amendment, they included that right and what that right is, what it does, what its function is in their First Amendment. And they said, Congress shall make no law. So you can't make any law to stop someone doing something or to abridge. The word abridge means to, when you're going to buy some paper and someone intervenes in, there is no bridge for you to cross to buy that paper. Right? They've abridged your right to buy. Everyone else is buying paper. If they stop you from buying the paper, right, they've abridged your right. But if you're buying the paper not for a political purpose, then, you know, you are, I mean, there is discrimination law anyway, really. But, you know, this is what RFK is saying, that the government wanted to control transactions, normal transactions and so forth, like in China with this point system. It definitely is the law in England. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt whatsoever about it. It is the law in England that they cannot prevent you from buying materials to write a petition, because that is being held to a commitment. And all companies that are formed you can't even have a business or company unless the government, under the state, under the law of England, you are incorporated into a business and are limited to what you can and can't do as a company under conditions of the realm. You can't hold people to commitments for doing petitioning to the government. And in America, I think it is the law in America, and I think it is illegal in America. Now, the freedom of use and access of the press. What RFK is sort of coming from the position that he thinks that they legally you can do it, but it's to do with them stopping you from doing it. Now, the law is meant to say that they can't stop you from doing it, but they are doing. So what RFK is saying, that it's not illegal or an offence in America, well, I think it is, because it's the abridgment. And I think if you trace it back to the English law and what the point of it is, you can't. There's no point in that law. What is the law? I mean, what's it there for? It's kind of like the way that RFK is. Ultimately, if he doesn't think that it's already illegal, then there's no point having the law, because it doesn't do anything. What does it actually do? What does it do? It allows you to do it and protects you from doing it. But if you can't do it, then there's no point you being protected from doing it. Because the whole point in being able to do it, you can only do it if someone doesn't stop you from doing it. Because if someone stops you from doing it, you can't do it. So the only thing that it really does is you can only be prevented from doing it if someone else stops you. So it would only be someone else who would stop you from doing it. So it's stopping them from stopping you from doing it, which is being held to someone else's commitment. And if they take a legal challenge against you, punish you legally, consequence from doing it, or actually, but you couldn't even be prosecuted for doing it, because to be prosecuted for doing it, you've got to be able to do it, right? So if you're doing it, now being prosecuted is being punished for doing it. Being punished for doing it. Now, not only have they stopped you from being punished for doing it, but how would you be able to do it in the first place if everyone was stopping you from doing it? If everyone was stopping you from doing it and was able to stop you from doing it, then it would be extremely difficult for you to be in a position to do it and then even be punished for doing it, which is being prosecuted. So you wouldn't even be able to be prosecuted because you'd have been prevented from doing it in the first place. Not even just by the government or by other people. So it has to stop other people from intervening, or you can't even move. And on that, and I admit that RFK is an intelligent guy, a knowledgeable guy. He's got a lot of knowledge about the workings of government, corporate entities, groups, environment, chemicals, law, all these complicated things. But on the basis of logic, right, there is a logic whereby if people can stop you from doing something, you wouldn't even be able to get anywhere with it. And you wouldn't even end up being in a position of getting prosecuted because everyone would have stopped you from doing it in the first place, right? Let alone doing it and then suffering a legal consequence and punishment afterwards. So, the commitments are... all these agreements that we agree to in a society and nation, I mean, you might as well just start going down the road and headbutting people and punching them in the face. I mean, CD Baby have refused to publish my advert petition. TuneCore are trying to argue with us to not publish it. And YouTube have taken my channel down. It already is illegal in England and America. It is. And it's understanding what the law means. Now, there might not be, in modern terms of the law, like what's the sentence, what's the offence? Well, look, they've got treason and so forth, right? What are the sentences and, for treason, they're all codified. But when that law was invented, it had things that were illegal and so forth. It says, right? It says, in that act, it says that subverting the liberties of the realm. And, judges, councillors and ministers could do this. And obviously the prosecutor, the people mentioned in the act, it's them. Now, what if any other citizen or company or business were intervening in you, then they would be subverting the fundamental liberties of the realm. There is some evidence in the Tumultuous Act and in the Professor Karen Barry paper that states that a lot of the public were some of them were opposed to petitioning and not wanting people to do it. And the government rejected, they actually wanted to try and to stop people, but it got rejected. So that is other people trying to intervene, It put a stop to the intervention. It's abridging the right. Now, what Robert F. Kennedy's talking about here is, like companies doing things like, Just Stop Oil are doing political actions. Well, long before Just Stop Oil have been doing political actions, I think these companies and entities have been doing what RFK has referred to as civil disobedience for a long time. I think the thing with the elite, the royals, the elitists, is that not only do they have everything, every material possession you could possibly dream of or want. They're developing and working on things that they not even don't exist yet, but they're working on through their furthering knowledge and development, all for their own personal gain. And, for a lot, they're not sharing the wealth out equally, that's for sure. Or making, people, encouraging people to live healthy lives. The thing is, now they're exceedingly spoiled. That they used to talk about people being spoiled, spoiled brats, they've got things. But there's a new generation of spoiled beyond spoiled. It makes spoiled look like, like nothing. And that is that, they not only do they want every single whim and material desire fulfilled, if they don't get their way, if they don't have their way, these people, and this is where RFK is talking about, these entities and companies are engaging in civil disobedience, right? Because this is this is probably the most important thing out of all of it, is that they don't just sulk. If these people don't get their own way, they don't just sulk. They stamp their feet and they lash out. And they lash out. They don't just do spray paint a wall or put some Extinction Rebellion logos in the street or on the pavement or spray a bank window. They cars smash into walls and trains crash and 250 people die and people's next door neighbours blow their heads off with shotguns and then turn it on the wife, like Boris Johnson's dad's. And these companies that have more power than God, or think they have got mechanisms and means by the technologies which they've acquired. So they don't just sulk to get their own way. In fact, how they get their own way is by coercing and manipulating everyone, which is what they want more and more of, like in China. That's how they get their own way. In fact, they want their own way so obsessively that we can't have our way. And if we don't do what they say, then they will, take that away, I mean, these people who, they, for their meals, they go to restaurants and pay, £500, £600 for fancy food. For that moment, they'll pay for that, and, a person on the street, a beggar or whatever, will never have a meal like that and pay that much money for a meal or fancy wine. But that's the thing, when it comes to them, money is no object. Now, when it comes to us, now, I mean, even if you drove, for 5 years and you had the freedom of getting into your car and opening the door and shutting it when you wanted, and you didn't even need to lock it, you didn't have any fear to lock it because no one needed to steal it because they got their own car or there are other cars to use, And that freedom of getting in and out and going where you want, when you want, and people, without, being locked in, you can't even get out unless someone gives you permission to do something or move. And then the vehicle itself is giving you orders. That exotic freedom of, just that freedom of, the freedom to get in and out without anyone telling you what to do. The freedom of going where you want without anyone telling you what to do. Even to do that for a day, 2 days, a week, a year. I mean, even if you had a car for 3 years and you enjoyed that freedom, it's a whole lot more freedom than 1 day of a car. I mean, if you had a car for 3 years and then someone stole it, but those 3 years were freedom, right? To me, it would have been worth it, rather than having to spend 10 years with Elon Musk not letting you open the door unless he pops on the screen and goes, "Hey guy, how you doing?" And he's, "Okay, open the door, Elon. Open the pod doors, Elon." Well, I don't know whether I should or not. Come on, Elon, open the pod doors, Elon. Open the pod doors. Well, I don't know if it's your voice or not. Is your eyeball check? Come on, open the door, Elon. Like, beep, beep, beep. Well, if you put your seatbelt on, I'll open the door. If you, whistle 5 times and, call for Dixie, sing me a song, do the truffle shuffle, and I'll open the door. This torture we're being put through, watch the ads, watch 3 ads. If you watch 3 ads with Greg Secker, and then, whistle me a tune, you got to get the tune right or the door will open, all this coercion, do what the robot says, it's almost like on Total Recall, when his face is popping up on the screen, the torture of that, what would the value, even if you had your car stolen after, 3 years, to have that 3 years of freedom is something precious and valuable, and no, pod car with a, eyeball scan, you can't get in and out, open the pod doors, all this crap, all this shit that Elon Musk's working on and designing, just junk tech crap, it's just pointless. Who wants, like you said, a monkey swinging in the jungles, climbing trees at his own will and freedom. Who wants to live in a world where you've been disabled? It's like, you've been given a disability. You might as well have a mobility scooter because you can't walk properly. You can't open the door. You can't go into a building. You can't, like in China, apparently, if you don't behave, you can't buy food. You've been disabled, It would almost be like living in some sort of maze or something. I really don't know what they're doing in China. It really is like the world around you doesn't cooperate with you. The world around, almost like, why would God create the world around you where you couldn't climb a tree? God gave us the power to climb a tree. God said, let there be light. You shall, if you want to climb a tree, you can. He gave us that power. He gave us that power to climb a tree if you want to. He gave us that power to swim in the ocean. Now these gods, these Seckers, these Bill Gateses, these Musks, these Zuckerbergs, they want to, it's almost like the Running Man or something, they want to, the world around you to not, like God made it so, it's almost like gravity. There's a law of gravity where you're stuck to the floor. These people want the law of gravity so you can't walk through a door, you can't move into one section of a town, you can't, move a vehicle unless, you obey God. It's like, God says, like, when God created the earth, he didn't say, like, if you don't pick 3 bananas, you can't eat an apple, it's merely the laws of men. And men aren't gods, but these men we've got now in charge want to be gods. And they want to build a world around us where there is a new gravity form, a new magnetic force in place where a door, will not open and close. Why do you need locks and chains anyway for thieves if everyone had money? Unless they want, there's only one reason. If someone wants to nick something to steal money from you, the only other reason why they want to steal something is to dick around with you, or because you had something what they didn't have. But if people could get things, if they really, really wanted something, if someone could make them it, then there's no, unless they just don't want you to have it. It's almost like then you go back to the women argument, don't you? Oh, they just don't want, if there's only one woman, they just don't want you to have them or whatever. Well, we're all going to end up with, blow up doll androids or whatever, a Model 1365 or whatever woman, Mark 7, it just don't make sense. There are other human utopias besides, the one that they're trying to build, which isn't really a utopia. they've just figured it out wrong. And I don't think they have belief in people. And the worst thing is the kindness and sharing of people, which could have been encouraged and nurtured. I think they've really, really chucked that in the bin now, because people now just want to block and ban each other. And the police have got this entire paradigm of antisocial behaviour, but it's antisocial. How can you figure out logically, right? If you've got a woman, let's say, and she don't want to talk to you, but you try to talk to her, and then the police officer comes over and goes, "She don't want to talk to you. She don't want to talk to you. It's harassment. You're under arrest." No, she don't want to talk to you. She don't want to. Well, just a minute. That's antisocial, though. If someone don't want to talk to you, it's antisocial, right? But not being accepted into groups and not talking to each other is antisocial. Now, no one's saying that, if you want a bit of peace and quiet, you shouldn't be able to have a bit of peace and quiet, but it's the words and terminology that they've given. Oh, if it's antisocial, you're the one who's been antisocial because you want to talk to people, right? How can that be antisocial, wanting to talk to people? And this is where the police's logic doesn't work, because the police are bookmakers. They're like the book people. They read it from the page. They read it from the book. The policeman does what the book says, right? Or do it by the book. You've got all these police officers, like, Stop You Les police officers in London and so forth, right? I observed you later. You did this, you did that. We observed you. There's all this police language, police lingo, police culture, the whole sort of police the whole police, just the dialogue of the police, the dialogue that they trained into. It's all, by the book. It's by the book language, by the book, if this is what code section 5347, contravention of 6534. We observed you, walking up to the lamppost and, fastening your bike to it or whatever, locking on whatever, we have reason to believe this, we have reason to believe that, you have a reason to believe, well, this is the thing. They've got all these, reasoning to believe, we suspect you of this or that. You can work out that, we think you might be doing this, you think you might be doing that. If they use that intelligence, we have reason to believe that, if a person would have been given a bigger wage, then he wouldn't have stole something, and we have reason to believe that, if he'd been treated more fairly in society and people had welcomed him in, the whole antisocial thing, the words of it are wrong. Antisocial, socialising, anti-socialising, it's different. If people are misbehaving or, causing aggravating social engagement, that's not being antisocial. It's not antisocial. It is just, messing around. Messing around is messing around, or, being disruptive is being disruptive, but it's not antisocial. It is just, not nice. It's not nice behaviour, but it's not antisocial. Because antisocial is engaging in social interactions, whatever they may be. I think the elite are antisocial, and I think it's mainly because there's so few of them compared to there's more of everyone else. And really, they don't like the fact that, they themselves are really kind of antisocial to the wider public, But they are doing actions, and I think they've been doing them for a long time. And I don't actually believe, like even with the IRA, all this leaving briefcases, suitcases on motorways back in the 70s. Why would you leave a briefcase on a suitcase? The thing is, back then, when there weren't all smartphones and things surveying us, things that people could do that are effective back then are legal things. Legal people win a legal case. The suitcase, and you can walk into a courtroom with a suitcase, and, if you win a certain legal argument or case, it could set the government back or local councils back or companies back, these companies and businesses. So it was always, why would we put in a briefcase? Why don't we put in a sack or a bag? Because a briefcase meant something. It symbolised something. And it almost was like scaring the legal sector, almost like, all this kind of shenanigans with, when some of these, Knights of the Realm, Alex, not Sir Alex Ferguson, but which is the other, one of the football managers, the Knights, it's Bobby or Alex, whichever, was, going down the hard shoulder and going to a football match, but there was a hold up on them, and, it was clearly obvious that the police chief had messed with all the signals and the highways agency to make them late. I think they had done. They play these tricks on each other, political actions against sparring, police chiefs, Sir Peter Farris sparring against, that's Sir Alex Ferguson or whatever it is, things like that. And I definitely think that their political actions are... The thing with the corporate elite is that they don't just sulk when they can't get their own way. They never take any damage. They never take any damage to their houses, to their lands, to their gardens, to their heritage, to their history. They've got to a point where they're getting their own way all the time, that they regard it that if they don't get their own way, that is damage, because it's damaging their plans. It's damaging their progress. And this is why they're then suing governments when the governments do things they don't like, right? They're taking the governments to court, to the special court, because it's harming future profits. So it's not even things that they've got, not even their house, not even their lands, not even their gardens, not even their gold reserves, not even their bank account balance. This is like projected profits that aren't even there yet in the future. So even when they don't get their own way, they've got to a point beyond reason. Even if you don't let these Charleses and Camerons and Tony Blairs, and if they can't have things their way, or even if you harm their potential future plans that they think are projectable, possible, then they're taking you to court. They regard that as damage. You're damaging their future profits. You're damaging their plans. So this is people who, it's not even the material things they've got, it's the things that they haven't got yet. And if you intervene in that, then they are now acting with terrorist action. And that is what Robert F. Kennedy's talking about, with saying that they will do civil disobedience, and they will also engage their staff. They've groomed and trained their staff to deny you access to their services, reject our political material, not answer questions, not answer legal questions, when the civil procedure rules require all parties to go to every effort and to show evidence of every effort to settle out of court, to communicate. But yet they've told their people not to do that. Everything that it says in the law, in procedure rules, they've now groomed and trained their staff and corporate entities to not comply with and to not cooperate with, and even to deny rights. They won't give any information, yet they wanted all the information from our government. And they not only command information from us, they just take it, they just update it and make the policy so you haven't got any option, or you won't use their machines. They convert their machines so that it's entrapment. They make it so, if they'd have done it like this at the start, at the outset, we wouldn't have agreed with it. And the entrapment is that they make it so there was no strings attached when we got into it. And then as they update the phones and upgrades the apps, then they introduce the strings, and then you can't really say no because you need it, right? So it is entrapment. It is an entrapment over a period in order to extract that data and get and obtain that data. And then they sculpture the culture around it that makes it okay. When 10 years ago they were saying, no, watch out for Trojans, watch out for, Trojans in disguise, malware and all this. And this is what actually they're using now on us. and it's actually really nasty. And then you get the smirk logo, the Bezos kind of smile smirk, that it's all kind of funny, when it's not. It's not funny. But with us, we're suffering damage. People's houses are suffering damage. Their village is suffering damage. Their fields, their horses are suffering damage. Their parks are suffering damage and disappearing. The peace is suffering. There's a damage to the quiet, to the peace with the traffic noise, with the aeroplanes flying over. There is damage to the memory, to the heritage, to the history of who we are and where we're from. Yet these elites, they've got their statues, their commanders, their knights all celebrated, the memories, their gardens, their lands, all the memories, their family buried in there. All these things, they're digging up our ancestors and heritage and spitting on it and pulling it around in bones like, Cromwell. We are suffering damage. It's not only about making a daily living. It's not a matter of getting through the day, doing a hard day's work and coming home and then, buying something and having something modest, something that you actually like, even if you're lucky. I didn't dislike our first house. I never disliked it. I thought it was just normal. I liked going to the park up the road until they demolished and bulldozed it, and then it wasn't there anymore. And then there was no memory, I never really needed anything bigger or better or huger or Texas go large with a big hat. I watched it on TV, but I never needed it. They're trying to sell it to you that you need it, that you have to have the extra large, go big, all singing, all dancing, fancy things. And they're the ones who are making power and money out of it, which puts us under their power. We're under their power. These devices are putting us under their spell, under their power. And they've already attained more material things than most working class people could ever dream of. And it's the fact that you're not damaging their things. You're not damaging their house. You're not damaging their gardens. You're not damaging anything. They're having tantrums because you're damaging something that they haven't even got yet, which means that they're not even content with what they've got. It's that they're still wanting things. It's still the next scientific discovery, the next thing. And all those things do is increase their spell over you and increase their power and control over you, because these people are actually insane. I think Gates is. I think he is, because to have Minesweeper, he's even trying to buy all the land. The fact that he had the Minesweeper game on Microsoft and he's even trying to buy all the land and make it all his. That has got to be psychopathic. He's psychologically working out ways and means, pathology, how to obtain and purchase everything into his ownership, which is like the game Minesweeper. How is all this going to become mine? Work it out, calculate it all. How can it all become mine? They have these. They dare to tell people that, if they've nuts or they've got psychological problems. And now we've got key figures, respectable household names, Neil Oliver, doctors, professional doctors, Campbell, famous celebrities like Russell Brand who are, all telling us, and then even now council chambers, some councils, like on that Mayor Tusi video recently, saying that, this is, other people think the same way. The public, portions of the public think this now. The amount of how psychotic and spoiled these people are is just next level. It's unbelievably ridiculous. And they are doing political actions. They've been doing them for a long time. I don't think it was just the IRA, saying, we want to be separate from England and we're going to put a bomb on the motorway. There's more to it than that, with Mountbatten going missing. And there's something about trying to make the Irish look bad in Northern Ireland, telling them don't talk about the religion, because they didn't really want us to learn about those religions. The Christians didn't want us to learn about the other religions, whether or not, and now we've got, oh no, they can't make a right, they bring in all these laws to say, a religion or belief, right? Which was mainly made in order to, get Muslims and Islam over here and get them integrated, Why weren't they bringing out, religion or belief, laws for discrimination, Why weren't they banging on about that in the 1950s and 60s, And then, why instead of saying, oh, don't talk to Irish people like religion, why weren't they saying, no, ask them about it, talk to them about it? Because they didn't want us to learn about, the old ways of legal system, the old ways of governance and things like that. They wanted us to be intimidated and scared and think that it's dangerous, I actually, and from what's happened to our ancient sites and the attacks on them, these people aren't just satisfied with having all the material things and having you under their power and spell. They also want, the name, all the names are erased. In Ireland, all the names, spellings were changed, all that to be erased. They actually also want to humiliate us all and rubbish us, change the name of your town to Waterloo, or, and all the food, the names of the foods, all the naming of the food, core, sod, ill, you sods will be ill to the core when we're finished with you. All the naming of the branding of the product, Captain Birdseye, it's all joke. It's all comedy. And the thing with people who own these companies, Warburton and these people, they're not all there. They're kind of in a heroin sort of happy dopamine, partial sort of consciousness where they kind of are serious because they've got a massive business, but they don't understand the power of it, the spell of it, the seriousness of it, the fact that, look, this is a human race we're dealing with and it's quite serious, and they're evolving isn't fuck knows what, but not free humans, that's for sure. There's something serious about the whole thing. I think that I think that the royals do like to name these as joke names, degrading names, comedy names, insulting names. And even now the way they change the language, changing, not naughty now, naughty is bad and all that. Much, there's much more in the language that is perversion of the language, particularly when something stands for something and it's in opposition or it's beating them, they hijack the term, enlightenment, woken, and liberal. Now, Trudeau's never seen liberal. George Galloway, is vehemently opposed to liberals. Because, but that, these neoliberals which means that, a minority has the freedom to do what they want by oppressing everyone else. That's not everyone being liberal. Liberal is, do you want to give me, 20 quid or 15? Well, I'm not bothered either way. How much you want to give me for it? These people don't do that because when they run the businesses now, it's this is the policy. You can do this, you can't do that. And not only we're taking it, we're asking you for it. If we're not asking you, not a negotiator. It's not negotiations. It's we're taking this, we're having that, we're doing this, and you're doing that now. So, and because of the very small minority of these people who have, the control of this money compared to everyone else, I don't actually believe that they are right in the head. I think they've got a psychosis, and they are terrorists in a way. And I also believe that they've recruited their staff and trained their staff, and now their staff are all under their command. All these corporate entities who won't uphold your rights, and then they won't answer any questions, and they're all in another country behind a corporate entity. And, they got transparent. Blair gave them transparency to the government, and now we have no transparency with them, but they take our data and information and ask for it. Blair went around training all these governments up and the procedures and processes. Our government didn't used to be too bad when I was growing up, but compared to the 70s and 80s, and when you're applying for forms and how they process things, it's actually got worse now. They force things from you, they take them, they mess with the post, they do horrible, nasty, forced things. What Blair has done to these governments, he's taught them to be very, very authoritarian. I really don't like what Blair has gone around whispering in the ears of these governments, and he's basically training them up to there's governance and there's dominance. If you've got regulations where you apply for a form and this or that, that's governance because you've got to have the form to do it. But there's a way about going about it. There's a friendly way. There's an amicable way, like the post office. The women go to the post office, and the woman behind the post office, not the woman behind the post office who refuses to comply or anything like that. There's certain negotiability, humanness. Now it's all gone, and the new Blair world is, we're doing it this way. These are, it's, just impersonal, binary. It's not really human. It isn't human. It might be human for Rishi doing his handshakes and his business deals in Parliament, and they're having their Tory toff meetings and, patting each other on the back. But with us, it's definitely not human. They try and make it out that it is, but, what they're doing to us tells you otherwise. What they're saying, the things they say in their announcements, but the things they actually do. But saying that, Sunak has done some things which are all right, which I think are actually okay. Like, I am a liberal person, when it comes to things like drinking and smoking, people should do what they want. But now knowing how much it's been harming the health and the bigger overall scheme of things, I don't think it's that bad that Sunak, is going to be making smoking illegal. That's kind of, but if I say I support that and I think it's a good thing, then all the people who smoke, then, not letting them make their own decision, and this whole thing with HS2 that they're meant to be kind of supposed to be stopping now, and all the protests actually were worthwhile and being successful. But there are lots of other things that I don't agree with these people on. There is hope, I think, but with the tech, there's a lot of things that on this Fiverr site now, they're scanning every single time you put a link now. They've just introduced it, which means they're scanning all your websites. This is an Israeli website as well. Really don't like that. There are a lot of concerns about this tech which should have been talked about openly and discussed in public, widely, before they implemented it. There was Mark Zuckerberg there with Nick Clegg, and they had this video, and they had hey Mark, hey Nick. What they should have done is Mark and Nick spill the beans, 10 years before they spill them, and not just on some remote meta video of Zuckerberg's, should have been on the news, ding, the news at 10, this is BBC One and ITV, like the Queen's speech. It should have been the Queen's speech, at 12 o'clock, dinner time or whatever. And then, on Christmas Day at, past, it should have been the global president of the world, Nick Clegg and Mark Zuckerberg, now are going to have a little talk with you all. We're proposing to introduce some new technologies that will, we're going to take all your data from you, and we're not going to answer any legal questions, and we're going to have any reason or no reason we can pull you from the policy from the platforms, and and we're going to be looking at all your photographs, and if you try and deactivate us looking at them, then we're not going to let you edit them, all this, and this is going to lead to a complete and total control and surveillance of movement, like in China with the social point system. When we get hold of your money, and if you protest, we'll, shut down your bank accounts like the truckers. They should have sat down, but that's not strategic planning of the council, because if it wouldn't be a strategy, the whole point of a strategic planning is that, it's like a chess game. I can't tell the opponent my strategy or I won't win. And the fact is that they're trying to beat us. They're trying to win. Why would you need a strategy? It's not just like, okay, we need to purchase this and then purchase that and then purchase the other. It's not that kind of strategy like, how do you buy a Model Air kit? The strategy of buying a Model Air kit, well, we buy part 1 and then we buy part 2 and then we buy part 3 and we buy part 4. That's the strategy. No, I think the council strategic planning is a little bit more serious than that. Well, what we're going to do about these people who are objecting? Well, we've got to strategically defeat them. Oh, so, so are you opposed and opposition? So it's not strategically, what's the best way to do it that's convenient for everyone? What's the best way we can do it so we can actually do it and they don't stop us from doing it? So we're trying to beat you. The strategic development against the opposition. How can we strategically defeat them? And that's signals military. That's, the military-industrial complex. That means that the contractors and the government and the police are actually trying to outcompete us, defeat some of us even. And this is why when they don't get their own way, you get these incidents, these civil disobedience of roadworks, highways, councillors, government minions, the owners of the railroad line and systems. When the system fails, exact time that's a perfect response to something going on which they weren't too happy about, it's just, all the time, the police are pushing this crime label on us, watch out, people breaking into houses, stealing things, hacking computers, blah, 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 when all along, no one was watching the crime of the strategic development, the strategy departments, and this big takeover, when some of it is criminal, some of it's entrapment, some of it's fraud, some of it's discrimination, and I don't think that the police have done enough, mainly because they're these observations the police are making, they're more, they were more concerned about making observations of, people going about their daily business, daily work, than, what these elite and people were doing and the perception of what they were doing, because at the end of the day, really the police like this, having a spell over people and having control over people. Their belief system is not it's not a negotiation, it's a prosecution. And that's the thing, we shouldn't really have the police. We should have, if there's something wrong, you should go to a place that helps you and sorts it out. If you haven't got any money, you shouldn't have to go steal something. I would like to see the police statistics, if they even exist, for, out of everyone who was caught stealing, or everyone who they actually, caught or were proved to be stealing or known of, I'd like to see how much percentage of those did it just for fun or a laugh, or did it because they really needed the thing and needed the money. That would be some statistic. That would be one statistic and observation of the police worth having. Because we know some people do crime just for the thrill or to put someone else at a loss, because in the law it says to make a gain or put someone else at a loss, right? It would be interesting for the police statistics, what percentage of crime was done just for a thrill or for fun, or what part of it was done actually for financial gain because they didn't have some money or material things that they needed to obtain, because, the money problem and equality in society, if that could have at least reduced the issue by 50%, and then the rest of the crime they're saying is due to immigration and, immigrants and poverty and ethnic problems and so forth. Without that crime, really, what percentage of the crime would remain that was motivated by, people just wanting to take things, because for the laugh, it would be a hell of a lot lower. The remaining crimes due to, vindictive reasons, after all the other reasons were removed, will be extremely low percentage, and whether you could negotiate and talk, those problems away once you've got less problems to deal with anyway. I think that the greed of the elite is a crime. They are criminal in the mind. They've got a psychosis, and when they don't get their own way, it's not just like Extinction Rebellion not getting their own way. These people have got everything, and they are seeing not getting their own way now as damage. You've damaged, you've hurt them, you've harmed them. Whereas, like, not only have other people not getting their own way and not getting what they want, they are actually taking damage all the time. They're taking damage to their homes, to the area, and to themselves. And the thing is, these people are making money out of it and a profit out of it. They're actually selling them the things that are actually damaging them, and they're actually, that is the killer loop. And we can only solve that by common sense and by logic and intelligence.